The transcendental refers to that which you have not experienced yet, that which transcends your experience. The transcendental refers to that for which you have no prior references and which lifts you out of your accustomed existence. The atheist makes an inner law in himself, a law against the transcendental. He is saying, well, I haven't seen it yet, so it cannot be. I haven't experienced this, so how can it be? He's made an inner law for himself against the transcendental. It takes faith to try the things that bring the new and bring the transcendental. It takes faith. In the Upanishads there are two kinds of God, or two ways of defining God and understanding God. And one is called Brahman, or more technically, Nirguna Brahman. This is God beyond attributes, beyond description, doesn't have something like personality, doesn't have anything like desire, doesn't have anything like an agenda. This God is pure consciousness. And that is the best term that the Upanishads and various scriptures come up with for Brahman, just calling it pure consciousness. And they say that you can't pray to that Brahman. You can't ask it for anything. You can't praise it. Or maybe you can praise it, but it doesn't care. Interesting thing too is that the Upanishads relates the various conceptions of God to our own states of consciousness. We are made in His image, we are from the Creator, and so we ourselves go through the deep, dreamless sleep state in which all we know is pure consciousness. And they say that Brahman knows no other because there is no other to know. He is the only one that exists without a second. So there is no one to know. Well, we too, in deep, dreamless sleep, experience nothing but the most flimsy layer of I-ness, and there is no other to experience, because we are merged then in the pure consciousness, in which there is no other to see or hear. Now, if you praise that Brahman, Nirguna Brahman, and if something arises out of it that appreciates that praise, now that's Saguna Brahman, God with form. The God we in the West usually conceptualize, God with attributes, God who cares, God with a plan, God with an agenda, God with feelings. This is now Saguna Brahman. Or if you pray to Brahman and something arises out of it that hears that prayer or responds to that prayer, this too is now Saguna Brahman, God with attributes and form. If some kind of sign comes or response to our prayer, and it seems that there is now a compassionate God, this is God with form, God with attributes, and it has many, many, many names. Because just as Brahman is infinite and has all potential, like the uncarved block out of which any form can come, Saguna Brahman has limitless forms and personas and characterizations and ways of manifesting himself. So we have Govinda, Brahma, the creator God, Shiva. We have the great guru figures. These are God with form, embodiments of the deity. Jesus Christ, Shivananda, Ramakrishna. In fact, Ramakrishna said that because of the devotee's longing and bhakti, the water that is Nirguna Brahman forms into ice or takes form so that we can see and know the divinity in a way amenable to ourselves. Now, the most reliable forms of God, the atheist is always saying, oh, where's God? Where's God with form? Well, he doesn't even look. He doesn't even seek. Why should he find God if he doesn't seek for God? And besides, he's made an inner rule against any transcendence anyway. So how can he find anything transcendental? The most reliable and solid forms of God I came to know are God as blissful inner sound of Om, God as blissful inner light, often called Bindu in yogic culture. Thirdly, God as bliss, God as Ananda. One of the descriptions of God in the Vedas is pure consciousness, being, and bliss, Satchidananda. And some of the commentators say, oh, well, this is a Brahman, the Nirguna, attributeless Brahman. I say, no, this is God with attributes. Bliss is an attribute. So the third solid way to know God is bliss itself, which arises from meditation and cultivating religious devotion. And the fourth, very reliable, solid way to know God and solid form of God is the Guru, the divine incarnation, the manifestation of God. The Guru is God coming to you in human form. Now this can be the gurus of history or gurus that you come to know here alive now. Well, the atheist says, oh, well, history, this is fake and that is fake. Well, we don't know and this is unproven and this. Well, you know what? All of history is fake. All of history is a myth. All of history is our own karmic deposit, our own karmic world movie. The stories we hear about a so-called past in this life are just another part of our strange world dream. And notice how they're always changing too. The past is all mythic, but it's also our own mental construction. So we populate our past with gods and incarnations of God. And so that Guru from the past, that Jesus Christ, that Krishna, these are all valid forms of a knowable God too. And it is our own divine nature in us projecting these figures and stories of grace into our so-called past in our fleeting world dream. A past that, again, I remind you, is continually found to change as new facts are found to be true or old so-called facts are found to be false, and things are always moving around back there in the past. And that too is according to our karma. Now, these more solid forms of God, God is Om, blissful sound, substrate of all matter. God is light, God in the form of light. And God is bliss. All these forms of God that are knowable and provable to yourself through search. I never would have come upon them. I never would have touched them. I never would have uncovered them if I hadn't had Shraddha when I was a boy, because I wasn't around atheists. I was around religious people. Shraddha means faith. I had enough faith to develop devotion within myself and try some things, try some spiritual practices so that I could find the solid, knowable forms of God. I had faith that there was something transcendental. Now how sad to be an atheist and make an inner law that there can be nothing transcendental, and therefore no one should have faith in anything. Indeed, children should have their faith cultivated, their capacity for faith cultivated. And guess what? The thing that gives a human being the greatest capacity for faith later, so that they can touch the transcendental perceptions of God for real, is a good mother. A good mother who's always there, always reliable, never turns you down, is right there always with you. That's where babies and children first get the capacity for faith. And later they can branch out and try that faith for uncovering bigger and larger things. A scientist even needs some faith to try out his theory. Atheists should at least be scientific enough to posit God as a theory, to be tested out. But they're neurotic. They're atheists because they're angry.